All right, prodigal son again. We have some more news on the border crisis. Something you should probably hear.
I haven't stepped foot in Ukraine during this war or Israel because of, look, if we die, it's over for them anyway, right? And so, but meanwhile, this is, interestingly, now I'm not piecing these two things together other than I noticed that there's two new camps being built in the Darien Gap. We just flew over them on Sunday and photographed them from the sky. And also, we've been down there on the ground. As you
Hold
know,
on,
I've been on the
before you
ground.
go into,
But those,
can you explain what is a camp? When you say we saw two new camps being built, what are these camps? What do these camps do? In case our audience doesn't never saw you before and doesn't understand the context here.
yeah, yeah, it's important. They are waste. They're really not camps anymore. They're more like bus stops and boat stops for as people come in from all over the world through South America, and they go through Colombia up into Panama through something called the Darien Gap. They go through a jungle there, and as they emerge from the jungle, they go into numerous camps. But now these camps have been made so efficient that they're more like bus stops in the jungle. And so right now, for instance, at La Blanca's camp, where I've been, I don't know, at least 50 times on the ground and in the air, even more, that camp can bring 3 to 5 thousand a day right now. And then there's other camps anyway. And so we've already got a huge infrastructure down there, which is almost saturated. But they're building two new camps, and these two new camps could do another 30,000 per day, right? And they're building these per day. I said, this is and they're adding the bus infrastructure and all these other things. What I was about to mention was these two new camps. I mean, I was just down there doing my thing in Darien, rummaging around, which is what you need to do when you're doing this work. And okay, there's two new camps. This is substantial. And then the Israeli war kicked off. Okay, they were connected in time. It doesn't mean they're related, but it's interesting that these two new camps started being built just before the war. I mean, could
Wow.
be coincidence, but now you have people talking about moving basically Gaza over to the United States. I mean, and over to
Whoa,
Scotland
whoa,
and other
whoa, whoa.
places.
Holy smokes. So, have you seen? I mean, I know you've seen from our discussions, I think, you've already seen Palestinians coming through the Darien Gap. You've definitely seen some of, but now maybe not the huge flood that we could see. Do you anticipate that could be the reason why?
It could be. I mean, I'm not connecting those dots, but those dots are very close together on the graph. And so it's just I'm down here doing my thing, checking the pulse, looking at the geography and how the infrastructure is changing. And then, hey, two new camps. And we go down and we droned one a couple times, and then we came back with the aircraft and got numerous camps on Sunday. And now you see, boom, the Israeli war.
Unbelievable. And so the idea that we would bring Palestinians into the United States, I mean, God, we're bringing in millions of illegal immigrants into the United States already. We have obviously massive amounts of refugees from the Ukraine war. We're happy to bring them in and to destabilize the United States. We need cheap labor in the United States. We have a million manufacturing jobs in the US that aren't being filled by anybody. So we need this labor. So do you Palestinians coming into the United States, basically a recreation of Gaza in the US?
Easily. I mean, they're already coming across. For instance, Venezuela. There's a lot of Hamas or Hezbollah down in Venezuela, right? Venezuela has a lot of Lebanese, as does Peru, and here in Panama and other parts of Central America. I mean, there's a lot of Hezbollah already here. Not that all Lebanese are Hezbollah, obviously. We
Right.
get that. Our Lebanese friends,
Right.
we get it.
We don't need the emails.
But
Yeah,
there
yeah,
are.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but and actually, the weird thing is we see a lot of Iranians coming through. A strange thing is, my whole life I always get along with Iranians, and yet our countries are always at war, and they're obviously at serious war, and Iran has very close, and so does China, connections with Venezuela. Venezuela is key to all this, right? A lot of people don't get that. Even people who study the border in the United States don't understand that nexus of Venezuela. Not just Venezuela, but that is a key thing to keep your eyes on. And another thing, I was having dinner the other night with an American government member here in Panama, and he'd only vaguely heard
This
of
is
World
crazy.
Economic
Listen
Forum.
to
And
this.
this is an older guy, and he's very smart. He'd only vaguely heard of it. And I'm like, you can't possibly even dream of understanding what's going on without understanding what the World Economic Forum is. I mean, if you don't understand that, that's like me saying 2 apples plus 2 apples equals 4 apples, but you don't know what apples are, and you don't know what numbers are, and you don't know what addition is. I mean, it's that basic.
I've always wondered what, like, all these politicians in the American government, you never hear them talking about the World Economic Forum or the Great Reset. And I thought, so are they in on it or are they not aware of it? How could you not be aware of it? Of all the things, I've been watching this closely for years. They've been advertising it for years. How would you not know? Then you have all these young global leaders from the Young Global Leader School from Klaus Schwab, they've sprinkled them throughout the different governments around the world. How would you not know? But he's saying this long-term politician in DC who's very intelligent, very aware of things, didn't know that the World Economic Forum even existed, let alone what they're up to. How's that even possible? Or is it plausible deniability?
You have to understand World Economic Forum and CCP and their collusion to understand what's happening. Without that, you can never understand it.
So these 2 new camps being built, you've sent up the drone, gotten photos of these, of course. Have they started? Have you started to see people pouring through these camps as these way stations and getting on buses yet?
The 2 new camps are still being cut down. And basically, in fact, I took a contractor from Texas out to one of the camps last week. Just I wanted that person's perspective because she just knows these things better than I do. And I wanted her to look at it and look at the things that are being done. And she thought, yeah, these could hold 15,000 each. I took her one camp, and then I just sent her photos of the others because we couldn't get to the second one when she was here. So the bottom line is that's enough infrastructure for another 30,000 per day. Now, what is this infrastructure? Right now, it's just the Imbara Indians with machetes cutting down the jungle because they just sleep on the ground. There's no plumbing. The rivers are the plumbing, which is what they already use anyway. And then basically they're way stops. So the aliens come through the jungle. They'll go through a place called Nicocli or Capargana in Colombia, which I've been down there and looked at this. They'll come through the jungle, and then they'll go to these camps called Bajo Chiquito and Canam Membrillo and some other places. And now there's new camps being built next to these existing camps, right? So it's bigger camps in addition to. Now, the Costa Rican and the Panamanian president came down here on October 6th, and they went to Las Blancas camp, which is where most of them feed through after they come out of the jungle. And in fact, I had a helicopter chartered for that day, and our flights were canceled by the Panamanian government because the presidents were landing there. Now, the presidents announced that they're going from roughly 60 buses per day to about 200. So about 200 buses per day. But
Now,
that's just getting started as well.
and so our audience understands these buses are like luxury buses. They're right there where you are in the gap, and they fill up these entire buses with illegal immigrants from China, Venezuela, wherever they're coming from, and they're bussed right to the U.S. border, and they're given packs, provisions. They're giving like anti-rape kits for the women. They're given all sorts of things funded by the U.S. government, and then they're delivered right to the front door of the United States. I mean, this is what's happening, and I don't think. When you're sitting down with a member of Congress, they're showing them this. What are they saying? How are they allowing this to happen? I mean, how the members of Congress you're speaking to in Washington, are they aware that the funding is coming right out of the U.S. government right here to get these people into the United States?
Congressman Tom Tiffany certainly is from Wisconsin. He talks about it all the time. I took him and another congressman down into the Gap a couple of years ago now, and I get messages from congressmen constantly. This week, probably a half a dozen. I mean, there are some paying attention, clearly. and I'm trying to. I know they're busy with other things as well, so I'm trying to get it to them in sound bites that are extremely pure and accurate, and that they can use as is. And I see them popping up, but in the news and whatnot, things that they say. But the bottom line is it continues, right? Let me say something about those buses, by the way. They don't actually go directly from Darien to the United States. What they do now is they used to, as of about 10 days ago or so, they would stop at near the Costa Rican border. There's another camp, which I've
Okay,
been up
and
there
they
and
deliver
drone
there.
that as well. But they would stay there. But now they've opened the border as of about 10 days ago. They'll get on the buses in Darien, and it costs $60, and then the aliens pay, and then they'll go straight through the border at Costa Rica, Panama, and go up to the Nicaraguan border. So now they have to go through Nicaragua on their own. They'll get and they continue this route through Guatemala, and they'll end up in Mexico, of course, at Tapachula, which I've been down there looking at that, and then they'll come up. They'll be at the United States. So you could literally be in Colombia to the United States. If you're lucky on the timing, you can do it in 10 days, which it used to take months. Now it's smooth. So the pipes are bigger, the pipes are shorter, and they're much smoother. The flow is increasing dramatically.
Imagine they're probably going to build trains next so they can bring them right to the U.S.
Here
border.
we
So
go.
they'll get
Well,
these luggage.
speaking of
Listen to
which,
this.
No way.
speaking of which, I just sent you something about the Mexican president. They're talking about the not the bioceanic corridor that's down in South America, but the intra-oceanic or interoceanic corridor. In Mexico, this has been something that's been theorized. They've been had it on the plate for, I don't know, 150 years or so. All these old books I read, they talk about making a train across that
Yeah.
thin part of Mexico. But now that train, that's why I spend so much time in that part of Texas, down by the RGV Valley, the Rio Grande Valley, near McAllen, near Brownsville. There's a reason why I spend so much time there. That train will go right through. That's not a train that connects here yet, but it's a train that'll go right through near SpaceX and all that, right up by Brownsville, which is where that Colonia is near Houston, north of Houston, right? And keep in mind, there's big ports there in Texas, right? So this I-69 corridor, after it connects with Mexico, goes all the way up to Detroit, where World Economic Forum has a headquarters on the Great Lakes, because they're working to, and that feeds with Louisiana and all these sorts of things. If you look at this, these are all along key logistics trails. It's not just about migration or invasion. That's part of it, and the invasion is being used to open up other routes, and the routes are being used to see it's recursive, right? So in other words, as more aliens come through the Darien Gap, they're making the path bigger, and now they're clearly building a road through the Darien Gap, right? And almost no Panamanians have any clue. I was just down there looking at a bridge they're building near Yavitsa, near the Rio Chuquinaca. Any Panamanians watching this can get in your car and go down there and look at that bridge. As you go into Yavitsa, it's on the right-hand side, goes right across the Rio Chuquinaca, right? And that, look at where it's at. That will connect with Colombia eventually. I just had dinner with
So that was the end of that, and I apologize. I'm trying to work here, so that's why my phone kept going off, that I had to keep checking this thing. I do Walmart delivery. But anyway, how crazy is this getting? What is the final goal? What are they up to? Obviously, Biden has to be in on this. It's the World Economic Forum in China with Biden as their puppet. You heard, that was Michael Yon on the YouTube channel Redacted. And you heard him. They are opening up 2 more camps that will hold at least 15,000 each. And they're talking about building a train. What is the purpose of this? What is the final goal is what I'd like to know. But for the fact that all the other politicians are oblivious to all this stuff, just is a bunch of crap. We are getting played on a level that I never thought possible, because I never thought the people would allow it. Again, I said this in the last video. We have all these things happening to our country, devastating. Not one person's protested or really done much of anything, but as soon as Israel and Hamas or Hezbollah go at it, we have protesters descend on D.C., worse than January 6th ever could have hoped to be. And for one, nobody got in trouble, at least that we know of. There was no big talk about it like there was about January 6th. Like, you can see everything they're up to anymore. You can see that this has all been pre-planned. So, one, why are we allowing it to happen? Why aren't we fighting back, or at least attempting to fight back, at least attempting to do something? And then what's the final goal? Is this just for them to get cheap labor and to get the votes for politicians that they need? Or is there something bigger involved here? This is so bad. Of all the things our country's going through, Biden sending all of our money and weapons, and this are our two, in my opinion, biggest issues right now. I wanted to bring this out. More people need to hear about it, and we need to figure out a way that we can start fighting back. Or this is it. It's a wrap. We're screwed. We're done. If we can sit back and continue this, to allow this to continue on, it's over for us. We're done. If people don't start to realize that and start caring, and what a tragedy. This makes me effing sick to my effing stomach.